Friends, I think this is potentially one of the most long awaited episodes that we've all been waiting for, and I've been waiting to be able to finally do. And the day is finally here where, if you're watching the video, you just saw Butter like literally squeeze through my arm, which is so cute. Both dogs are on me right now. The day is finally here where I get to tell you guys all about my book. So I thought that it could be really kind of like nostalgic, but just also uh, it could be really nice to do an episode where I take you guys kind of on the journey of um, how we kind of got to here, of finally having the book available for pre-order. I will also say that towards the end of the episode, I'm going to share with you exactly how to pre-order the book in the best way so that you get the pre-order bonuses, especially if you are in Australia or if you're basically international anywhere. And also so that you know the best way to buy it so that your purchase helps in terms of fingers crossed, getting me on the New York Times bestseller list. We are manifesting that, and USA Today bestseller list. And then more importantly, even is when you buy the books through a certain way, like the pre-sale way and like certain links. So I'll explain that later. It then basically tells the bookstores, oh, this book is important. Let me stock the book. I have learned so much about books and just the game of it all. Like, it's wild through this process. So I will explain all of that also later on in the episode. But let's just firstly start with how I even came to writing this book. Okay, so if you were following me back in 2019, that is when I was living for a little bit in Aspen. And then I also was living in a hotel in New York City. It was kind of like Soho area. It wasn't, though. It was, what was that little pocket called that people was, it was one of those, you wouldn't even know the pocket if you don't live in New York. Anyway, it was like downtown, right near Soho. So I was living in a hotel for a few months because in New York, you basically can't Airbnb. It's like illegal to Airbnb. And I didn't have a permanent visa, so I couldn't then get a apartment, whatever. So I was living in a hotel doing the kind of like, Eloise at the Plaza situation. And I started writing my book towards the end of 2019. This is crazy to think about. I feel like a lot happened that year. A lot happened that year. I also started doing this survey on men that was basically like an anonymous survey, and they could share answers to questions that basically would help me to further understand their struggles today when it comes to their relationships with women, feeling emasculated, feeling like they're constantly in the wrong no matter what they do. And it was, some of these answers you guys have heard me talk about in my program, Be a Lover, Not a Mother, because I shared some of the answers in that program. But they're really actually fucking heartbreaking, to be honest, a lot of these answers. Things like some of the ones that I remember off the top of my head are things like, I feel wrong every day just for being a man. Another one that I really remember is he's a husband, and he said, sometimes in the office, I really wish that I could ask my female coworkers, where did you buy, that shirt or that piece of jewelry or whatever, because I would love to buy it for my wife because I really like it. Like, it's a beautiful shirt, but I don't feel like I can ask them that because they might take it as like a sexual thing that I'm saying to them. Anyway, there's a lot of stories that were shared in there, and it just really made me aware of how we need to, and you guys know about this, which is why I'm giving you the very like real, authentic version of this book story on this podcast, because you've been here for a while, you know me, I trust you guys to actually like hear the context of everything. But it made me basically realize that men are not being heard. And we focus, yes, on like men's mental health, but we don't focus on the mental health implications of how we as women are affecting men. And there's a lot out there of how men affect us as women, but not the other way around. And it's not to say that there is like a right or wrong. We're not picking sides. We're not saying that men don't affect women or anything like that. I'm just bringing another part of the conversation to the table. So this book really was written over about a 3.5, 4 year period, which I'll get into in a second. essentially what the book has become is, I like to describe the book as one big question. The book isn't telling you anything. The book isn't saying you have to believe this or you have to do this. Really, what I wanted for people was, I wanted people to actually start thinking. I wanted people to think a little bit more critically, and I wanted people to feel like they were thinking for themselves rather than just believing what the news or social media or what their friends were saying, but actually tune into their bodies and their intuition again. And the funny thing is, as we all know, so many women are like, I want more from men. Like, they're not masculine enough. He's not leading. Where's the chivalry gone? Like, we're expecting all of these things. And yet we are not acknowledging our role to play in having men lead us and being chivalrous and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I started writing the book in this hotel room. I actually remember like writing it one night, sitting there at like this desk that was frankly way too small, sitting at this desk and having my view of New York and writing the book. And then my biggest struggle with writing the book is that, what I figured out is, obviously, a lot of authors, that's their whole job, is to write the book. They get an advance, and that advance basically allows them to like have their job as writing the book, right? Because that advance then is basically their income for the next X amount of months. And they just get to go into this book hole and write. And boy, do I need to go into a book hole and write. Like, I understand that need of authors to be in that book hole and write, or why people go to like writing retreats and stuff, so they can just escape and they can really, really focus. So why it took me so long to write this book was, I mean, I do think it's coming out like the perfect time, and like I believe all of that, but also there's been a lot of patience that I've had to practice during this time, which we'll get into. But it took me a long time because basically I would have to write it during chunks of time where I wasn't then doing other work. And I don't mean like during the week chunks of time. I mean like, when I would take my 6 weeks off over Christmas and skiing and New Year's, and I would go skiing, I would be writing that whole entire holiday period. Or if I was taking a break and I was having a week off from clients, I would be writing. Or I would decide that this weekend I'm writing my book, and I would just focus on writing all weekend and not doing anything else. And so it was like I would start, stop, start, stop. I wasn't actually fully writing it every day for 3 years, if you will. It just took me 3 years or so to actually complete, because I couldn't just sit there and write it for, 6 months at a time and then be completely finished. I am kind of glad that it took me a long time, because I started writing this book before I met Hal, right? I mean, I started writing this book before COVID even happened. And so during that time, during COVID, I felt like I was able to learn a whole other level of what women need and women's struggles and the mental load, and really the whole kind of like feminine urge that we joke about. There's actually a lot of truth to. I was able to learn so much about women's cravings and desires during COVID, because we started to get really honest with ourselves. So many women where they saw the blessing, if you will, of COVID, because, even though they lost their job and it sucked, they were like, oh my God, I'm kind of happy for the first time because I get to just like bake muffins and chill out. Or it meant they got to spend more time with their kids. And obviously I've talked about this before. There was plenty of negative side effects, and like, we won't get into that, but I don't love the way that all that was handled because of the mental health implications for so many people and the suicide rates and all of that. But what I will say is that one of the things that I was able to get from that time was the information of the realizations that it brought for so many women. And so I included that in the book. Then I obviously moved back after London, because I was living in London during lockdowns and everything. Then when I moved back to New York and I got my apartment and all that, and then I met Hal, moving back to New York, and then, fully being able to date again because I was actually in a city for a long period of time and COVID wasn't happening and all that kind of stuff. Then it was like, as I'm dating, I'm kind of like keeping all these tabs in my brain, if you will, for different stories to put in the book and whatnot. And then I obviously met Hal, and then that added another layer to the book. And that then added the layer of like being the female breadwinner and all of that kind of stuff. So what I will say is that I'm glad that it took me so long to write, because I do feel like I was able to, like, where the book was in the beginning to where it is now is two totally different places. What became extremely frustrating though was then towards the end, and the process and the process of just like how long it took towards the end. So before we get into that, is there anything else I want to share with you guys about the book before we get into that? What I will share is, if you go to my highlights on my Instagram stories, there's a highlight of book writing or something or other. And it doesn't have it from the very beginning, because I don't think highlights actually existed back then. but it has it from when I was living in New York. And there are so many just pictures. And I was flicking through it the other day when my book agent was here at our house for this like day-long meeting. And I was just like, wow, like it feels like a lifetime ago that I was sitting in that orange chair looking out, you know, down to Fidei because I was living in Tribeca, having the snow fall outside and just like trying to crunch away at this book. And I texted a friend yesterday the link to the pre-sale, and she bought it and she sent me a message and she was just like, I'm just having all these flashbacks of just like, I'm going to cry, like the blood, sweat and tears that was poured into this book. And like, let me tell you, in the last couple of years, there have been, you know, I would say in maybe the last year, if not maybe last year and a half, there have been some real moments where I'm just like, I don't know whether I have it in me anymore to like get this book out, because it has been such a fucking process. Not because of the book itself or the content in the book. Actually, I was initially just going to self-publish it because the book name was something different. The book name originally was Has the Feminist Movement Fucked Us? That was the book name. And now the book name is Becoming Her. The reason why it was changed was, I mean, it was for a smart reason. And the reason why was that like my book agent basically was like, from a marketing perspective, the people that actually need to read this book, they're not going to pick that book up if it says Has the Feminist Movement Fucked Us? Because they're immediately deterred by it. So we basically like marketed it as more like a girl boss book, if you will. But then when you actually read the book, it's then talking about what they actually need to know. It's that whole thing with marketing of like, you give people what they want to hear, but then you tell people what they want to hear, and you market it the way that people want it to be marketed, if you will, and the way that it's like kind of enticing. But then once they actually get it, they get what they need, not what they want. And that's sometimes even with my programs, right? It's like you get like, you know, I market my programs to be like this sexy thing and blah, blah, blah. And it is. But then once we go into it, I'm like, this is actually what you need. But if I was to tell people like, this is what you actually need, that wouldn't be as sexy as like, create your dream life. And like, when you heal your trauma, this is what happens. And it's not like I'm lying. It's actually all what it is. It's just a different way of positioning it. So you really are becoming her from like the embodiment of everything in the book. And part of becoming her is to no longer be emasculating men, to get off this kind of like high horse of girl boss stuff, to revalue the feminine, to consider where you are just like hanging on to like being a good feminist instead of actually honoring your truth and your intuition. You know, where you're thinking that you have to like compete with other women instead of just like honoring what you actually want to do. So the book kind of progressed in that way, in a way that was really going to serve the women that actually needed the book. But like that changed, like the book title changed. And so we were going to self-publish it because basically it was like, you know, I didn't want to be dealing with publishers essentially changing the content of the book. I was very, very clear on that. So initially we actually went in as like, okay, let's hire an agent and then we're going to go down the self-publishing route. Long story short, once we hired the agent, and I'd done like 50 iterations by this point of this book. Once we then hired my book agent, Charlie, once she read it, or I think it was actually David before even Charlie, it might've been David that was like, you need to send this to people. One of them, because we hired another guy, David, before, and David introduced us to Charlie. It might've been David. One of them was like, this book is so good, you need to send it to publishers. So, and by the way, I don't mean good as in like, oh my God, it's the most well-written book, because I'm not a writer. And, you know, Charlie's extremely blunt. When Charlie got it, she was like, we need to rewrite like this book because it hasn't been written very clearly. Like it hasn't been written as well as it could, but the content was all there. There was absolutely no shortage of content, and the point was there, and the emotion was there, and the storytelling was there. Long story short, we sent it to a few publishers, and one of the publishers that we ended up obviously going with, they came back and they basically gave me like an amazing deal, not in advance. We actually were able to get a 50-50 deal, which is like a profit split. So normally when you go through a publisher, and I might butcher this a tiny bit, but obviously, I know it can be different for everybody, but generally speaking, when you go through a publisher, you're going to get an advance. And then after that advance, you're going to get like 1% of royalties or whatever they call it. And so over the course of that time, or in the first 10 years of the book selling, I think the contracts can be a little bit different depending on the person and what you negotiate. But essentially you don't bank on making any money from a book. You got to bank on making money from the upsells. Now, I didn't write this book to make money. And so that was a big thing Charlie asked me of like, why do you write this book? Is this a moneymaker? Is it to bring people into your business? Like, why did you write it? And I said to her, I wrote it for my activism self, like the part of me that's just like an inner activist and just like needs to get this message out there. Like, I don't care, you know, how many people are going to hate me after I say this. that was why I wrote the book. I didn't write the book to make any money. However, if I can make money at the same time, obviously that's great. And by having a 50-50 profit split, it actually means that the publisher is then more motivated to like also put energy behind the book, if that makes sense, because they're making less money. So they obviously want their 50% to be a higher numerical value. But it also motivates me and our team to then be showing up more for the book because we're able to make more money from the book, if that makes sense. And then it just made it a no-brainer, to be honest. It really made it a no-brainer of going through the publishing route. And like part of me did want the publishing route just for kind of like, you know, not always, but people can sometimes, people can just like look more highly upon a book that's been published through the like publishing system. And you don't have to do that by any means. But why I'm saying that is because something that was really important to me was I really wanted to try and be on the New York Times bestseller. I really wanted this book to be taken so seriously. I didn't write a cute little self-help book where it's like, oh, I just like wrote a book and like you can buy it off my website. Like I wanted to do this extremely seriously. Like this is another segment of the business. It's not even like Monica Yates Health. It's like a separate part of it, if that makes sense. And so I wanted to do this. I wanted to do it really, really well. And I toyed a lot in the beginning. Do I do self-publishing? Do I not? But I remember having this realization, and I kept coming back to this in every moment where I just wanted to throw the towel in, of I will never forgive myself. And I will always wonder, like, what if I let my impatience get the better of me and I just put this fucking book out as it is? Because if it doesn't do well, I will always wonder what it would, like how well it would have done if I got it edited better, if I went through a publisher, if I paid my book agent a ton of money, if we did a bunch of PR behind it, blah, blah, blah. And so even the other day when we were all sitting at the table with Charlie, like Hal was like, you know, and the whole team is behind it, guys. So when you're buying this book, you're not just supporting me. Like, I can't tell you how grateful I am, especially being pregnant, that like, you know, Olivia, Courtney, like everybody on the team, their job is not to launch a book, right? That's not what is in their job description, if you will, right? And not to say that I hire people where it's like, this isn't in my job description, but what I'm also saying is I'm like, every single person on this team, it is a completely new thing for them, but they are putting in the blood, sweat, and the tears, as am I, as is Hal, because we all are like, at least if we put our blood, sweat, and tears in and we semi-die, like we have recovery time after, and we semi-die, if it doesn't do as well as what we thought it would, at least we know we put everything behind it versus doing a half-assed job and then wondering, could I have put more behind that? And then would I have gotten a way better result? So we are putting everything we fucking got behind this book. And so when you guys buy the book, not even when you just buy the book, when you tell your friends about the book, when you put it on Instagram stories, when you share the book at your office, when you buy 2 books and then you put one of the books on the table at your office, for example, like, or like give one to the library. I don't know, like all those little things, like some of those old fashioned things, they work so well and they support not just me, not just the team, not just the book. Do you know what they support? They support you getting more men to open the door for you. I truly mean this though, like the more that we can get the message out of the book, right? The more that message can get out there, the more that we will see a change in society. I truly feel like this book is going to start a bigger conversation, and the conversation has kind of started already, but I truly feel like having this book out there, yes, it's a bit controversial, but I really feel like this is the conversation that needs to start being had, because everyone I tell about the book is like, oh my God, I think that all the time. I always think that, but I don't say it. People are thinking this shit and not saying it. And I'm just not afraid to say the thing, if that makes sense. So that is kind of like the book, right? So the book really is, the book really is this question of, has all of the female empowerment and the feminism and all of that, has it actually made us as women more miserable? Hang with me though, more miserable, because we feel this pressure to be the perfect wife, the perfect boss, the perfect coworker, the perfect wife, the perfect sister, the perfect friend, the perfect everything, the perfect Instagrammer. And we are basically taking ourselves out of the box of the 1950s housewife and putting ourselves in this box of being the perfect girl boss, and that's what's going to make us happy. And the reason why this question is important is because what we have seen in research is that as women have gotten more rights through history, we've actually become more unhappy. Now that doesn't mean, I'm not saying women shouldn't be voting. That doesn't mean that voting makes us miserable or having a job makes us miserable. My hypothesis with it, and the whole book again, is I'm saying, what is your hypothesis? Like, ask yourself the question, because this isn't about a one size fits all. We're not all meant to be living the same life. This is about, what life do you want to be living? So what I think is just that with us having more of these rights and more of these options and all of that thing, all these things, which is great. We should have rights. We should have options. We should have all of those things. What I think we've done, and what I think our culture has done, has made us feel like we have to do it all. And we are not making men responsible for their part of the load. We are not asking men anymore for their protection and for them to provide for us. So we are putting all of that on our shoulders, and we are fucking exhausted. So in the book, I talk about the influence that trauma has on our relationship to our feminine. I talk about, how we need to heal our relationship with men so we can actually receive from them. I talk about emasculation. I talk about chivalry. I talk about understanding men. I talk about staying in feminine leadership when you're being, when you're at work. I talk about revaluing the more traditional feminine qualities. Like, it is valuable when you're folding the laundry at home. Don't dismiss yourself and don't think that you're not being productive when you're doing that. So I just realized there's all these ropes around right here, all these cords, they need to go. I talk about all these things. So it's an in-depth book. It's not just based on personal development. That's the whole thing. It's also tying in there like what I'm seeing in society and what the research has shown in the evolution of women and just society as a whole. So let's get into how you guys can support the book and the best way to pre-order the book. Now, firstly, I had no idea. This is like, I was saying this to my book agent the other day. I was like, okay, if you've never done a book before, like, I feel like there's no education on why a pre-sale is really helpful in supporting the author. So I always just thought that there was no difference between buying a pre-sale book, like buying a book on pre-sale and then buying it at full time. And so I would always just be like, oh, I'm just going to wait till the book's out, because like there's no point buying it early because I'm not going to get it until the book is actually out. But little did I know just how much it helps the author and all of the work that they've put into the book by you getting the pre-sale. And there's no difference. Now, what we've also done for pre-sale, and you've probably seen plenty of other people do this too with their book launches, is there are a number of bonuses that you can get depending on whether you pre-order 1 book, 5 books, or 20 books. So you can check all of the bonuses out on the website page, which is becomingherbook.com. Now, let me go through though pre-sale and how it works if you're US or international, because I have a lot of international listeners, which I am very, very grateful for. However, if you were to, for example, pre-order the book from like the French Amazon, those numbers don't help me the way that if you were to buy them from the US Amazon, right? So, and again, you can decide what you want to do. If you do not want to buy it the way that I'm going to share, that's the most helpful for us, that's fine. Like at the end of the day, you buying the book is the best thing, right? However, when all the orders are coming through the US, it is what helps media coverage the most. It is all of the lists and everything of the books and like the rankings of the books and what people care about. They don't factor in how the book is doing in Australia or in Canada or in Mexico or in the UK, which I had no idea about. I don't know why, but I just thought it was like global. Nope. It doesn't matter if I have sold thousands of books in the UK. It won't matter to what's happening in the US in accordance to like how well the book is doing in the eyes of the US and like media outlets here and the New York Times bestseller list here and the USA Today bestseller list and all that kind of stuff. So what we've put together, Shelly, so what we've put together for the book is that if you are an international person, so that means anywhere outside of the US, if you are going to be ordering the book from, then if you're open to it, this is going to be the best thing for us. And you'll also get the most bonuses doing it this way. So when you go to becomingherbook.com, you can either choose to order it through the US, like order it as a US person or ordering it as an international person. Now, even if you were to order it not through the website as an international person, it's going to take a while for the book to get to you because the book's like not getting printed till a certain time. And if there isn't enough stock, and all the pre-sales help for product distribution and like print runs. So if there is not enough stock, then there can be big delays on you getting the book. So when you pre-order the book, then your book will not get delayed in getting shipped to you. But if you wait to order the book, it could then be delayed because of print runs and whatnot. So if you were to order the book, let's just say on like Amazon France or Amazon Australia, it's probably going to get to you at the same time, if not a little bit later, than if you were to order the book through our website, and you're not going to get the pre-sale bonuses. In addition to the pre-sale bonuses, whether you order 1 book, 5 books, or 20 books, if you are international, we are also doing a special event just for you guys. Like I'm hosting it just for you guys, a book reading and a Q&A. So I will read parts of the book with you all, like on a Zoom call or whatnot, before the book comes out. So you will also have kind of been able to read a little bit of the book. I'll read the book to you, if you will, and we'll have a bit of a Q&A time because, and the reason why we're doing that is because we have to factor in the cost of shipping. Shipping a book to Australia, don't ask me why. It is so, shipping anything to Australia is so expensive. Shipping something oh my God, Europe, it's also expensive. So we've had to factor in the cost of that. So you're paying for the book plus the shipping of that. But to kind of hopefully offset that for you guys, I've added in that inclusion of that Q&A with me and that reading. You're only going to get access to that if you're an international person. Not everybody gets access to that. So if you're international, and our whole system knows if you're international or not, so you can't be cheeky about it, then you will get that extra on top of the other bonuses that you're getting for pre-sale. So all in all, if you know that you want to get the book, please, please, from the bottom of my heart, can you order it during the pre-sale time? Thank you to all of my friends and the past clients that have already ordered the book because we sent you guys some stuff early. Like, thank you to all of you that have already ordered the book. And if you have already ordered the book and you haven't told me about it, send me a DM so that we can say thank you. And that it just really builds the momentum, not just for me, for the whole team. Like everyone in the Slack is just like getting so jazzed when I send them screenshots from friends and from clients and whatever, of everyone being like ordered. And it's really, really, really fucking surreal. Well, you're also going to have some book events that you can look out for. And they're already, by the time this episode actually is airing, all the details for them are on the Becoming Her website page, becomingherbook.com. So you can go there for the details. So what we are doing as we have a New York City book launch party. Tickets are available, limited tickets. If there's any still left, again, I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time, a few weeks ahead of time when this episode's coming out. So all the details are on the website page. So there is a book launch party. It is fancy. It is glamorous. It is a vibe. I'll be doing a Q&A. I will be doing a book reading. There will be signed books. There'll be cocktails, the whole kit and caboodle. So that's happening in New York. We're also having one in London. So for all of my Europeans and all of my Brits, I really hope that you guys can make a weekend out of it. If you don't live in London, like just get a train over or a plane because like you're all so close to each other. Come to London and, make a few days of it. You'll meet so many other like-minded women and come to the London book launch party. Okay. Tickets for that are also on the website page. Then in addition to the book launch party, so they are parties, like a party, glamorous, dark, moody room, flowers kind of vibe, cocktails, etc. In addition to that, we have the book tour. We're keeping it really small just because I am going to be 7 months pregnant. So we're trying to honor the fact that like, I don't need to be pushing myself to a point of like detriment. So we're managing that. So we are going to be doing a book tour, which will basically mean that I am doing talks in bookstores and signings as well. So we have one talk and signing in Austin. So if you are in Austin or if you're close to Austin, please, please, please come. Bring a girlfriend. The cost of your ticket is literally just the cost of the book. Like your ticket gives you a book, right? And then you also have a talk and a bit of a Q&A and all that kind of stuff. So bring as many girlfriends as you can. And not only is it fun for you guys, like even though it's only like, how am I saying this? It's only $30. This is what I'm trying to say. It's only $30 for your ticket. And you get a fun little girls' night out of it as well. And you're probably going to learn something and feel really inspired and meet some new friends. So Austin, we have it for. Denver, we have it for as well. And then we also have one we kind of have one in New York. So I think the day before or the day of, it'll be written on the website page because it's all being finalized right now, of the book launch party in New York City. I'm actually not doing a bookstore reading anymore in New York City because the Barnes & Noble on 5th doesn't do readings, only signings. And we're just going to do the reading at the book launch party. But if you would like to meet me, take a photo with me, see me, I feel such like a wanker even saying that, like meet me, like as though I'm like, I don't know, a special person. I know some of you think that I am, but I'm like, I'm so normal. Anyway, if you want to get a book or get your book signed by me, you can come to the Barnes & Noble on 5th. And I think it's going to be the same day actually as the book launch party. Again, details will be on the website page for that. So that's going to be the version in New York. So the 2 bookstore readings that I am doing are Austin and Denver, and all of the details are on the website page for that. So if you want to make a little weekend out of it and fly to one of those cities, that would obviously be super amazing. Otherwise, make a weekend out of it or a few days out of it and come to New York, or fuck it, go all the way to London. If you've been like itching to go to London or go to Europe, then come to that one. I think that's it. So that's the kind of the details of the book and what is happening, which is so exciting. So exciting. And again, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the cheering me on over all of these years. I know this honestly feels like a moment for all of us because even one of Hal's friends is here, right? And I started writing this book before Hal, I even knew Hal existed, right? As I said earlier, Hal's friend's at the house right now. And I came down from a client call before and I was like, oh, hi, blah, blah, blah. Cause they just sometimes he'll just come over and do work, change the scenery. And I was telling him about the book because he was asking how the book's going. And he's like, yeah, I feel like you have been talking about this book for years. And that's he only knows that from the years that I've known Hal. And it's been more years than that. There's been 2 more years on top of that. So this book has been really, really long awaited. And I'm so glad that it is finally here. The last thing that I'll say is for any listeners, if you have a podcast or you have a platform and you would like to have me on your podcast to talk about anything that you want me to talk about, please make sure that you reach out to our team because I'd be super grateful to be able to do that. And then also if anybody has because I am so not into TikTok, if anyone is a book talker, I know that's a really big thing. And they've got a big following and they would like to talk about the book, please send an email so we could send you a copy of the book or a preview of the book if you're seeing this ahead of when the launch is happening. And that way you could share that with your community as well. And of course, if anybody else is listening that has a really large platform, I'd be so grateful for you guys to share the book. And if any of you want to do an Instagram live or something, because you have a really large platform, again, I'm super open to those things. My calendar is getting pretty hectic and we're managing the fact that, I shouldn't be working as much as I used to just because I'm growing a human. And I want to be cognizant of that. So even if we can't fit you in before the book launch, but I'm able to do something with you later in the year after maternity leave, that would still be amazing. Because it's not like we want the book to only sell now. We want the book to sell forever. So I appreciate all sharing, all opportunities, even if they are a year after this episode has come out. Okay. All right. So that is it. The book is available for pre-sale. I can't believe this day is here. The book is available for pre-sale. Please, 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 please go order it. And remember that you have to order it through our website in order to get access to those bonuses. And if you want that signed copy, then make sure that you come and see me in either Austin, Denver, New York, or London. And I will then sign your book as though I'm I don't know, some amazing author. And it's just all very surreal. And I will see you guys hopefully very soon at one of the book events.